From the Podwires newsroom at joinpodwires.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Podwires Newsroom Roundup. I'm bringing you the latest from the world of podcasting and entertainment, and folks, we've got some significant developments to unpack today, September 20, 2025. Let's dive right into our top story, which honestly has the entire entertainment industry talking. The Screen Actors Guild is taking a strong stance against what they're calling a dangerous precedent for free speech in America. SAG-AFTRA has issued a statement condemning the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live, calling it, quote, the type of suppression and retaliation that endangers everyone's freedoms, unquote. Here's what happened. ABC made the decision to suspend airing Jimmy Kimmel Live following intense outside pressure. Nexstar Media Group pulled the show from their stations, calling Kimmel's recent remarks offensive and insensitive. But here's where it gets really concerning. Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr raised the possibility of license revocation for affiliates that continued airing the program. In a Wednesday interview, Carr urged stations to push back against ABC, warning that continued broadcasts could create a pattern of news distortion that might endanger their FCC licenses. That's government pressure on broadcasters, folks, and it's raising serious First Amendment questions. SAG-AFTRA, representing approximately 160,000 entertainment professionals, isn't mincing words. Their statement reads, "Our society depends on freedom of expression. Suppression of free speech and retaliation for speaking out on significant issues of public concern run counter to the fundamental rights we all rely on," unquote. This story highlights the ongoing tension between content creators, broadcasters, and regulatory bodies. We'll be watching this closely as it develops. Now, shifting gears to some incredible podcast news, PodcastOne announced that the Adam Carolla Show has reached its 4,000th episode milestone. Think about that number for a moment. 4,000 episodes since launching in 2009. That's over 15 years of daily content, making Carolla potentially one of the only podcasters worldwide to achieve this count. Kit Gray, president and co-founder of PodcastOne, called Carolla the hardest working host in podcasting. And honestly, the numbers back that up. The show has maintained top 20 rankings for over a decade and pioneered the concept of live podcast recordings with ticketed audiences. Fun fact, Carolla was inducted into the annual Podcast Hall of Fame in 2024 and is set to join the Hollywood Walk of Fame class of 2025. From a podcast booth to a star on Hollywood Boulevard, that's quite the journey. Speaking of big moves, Premiere Networks just announced they're bringing veteran broadcaster Phil Hendrie's The World of Phil Hendrie to iHeartPodcasts. This is significant because Hendrie is a radio Hall of Famer known for his incredible ability to voice multiple characters, all himself, while simultaneously hosting. It's comedy gold, and listeners have been falling for it for decades. The show returns to national distribution after years of being podcast exclusive. Audacy dropped some exciting news with the launch of Simpsons Declassified with Nancy Cartwright. Yes, that's Bart Simpson himself. This weekly audio and video podcast, produced by Monica Gil Rodriguez, promises behind-the-scenes stories from America's longest-running scripted primetime series. Cartwright, who voices not just Bart, but also Ralph Wiggum, Nelson Muntz, and several other characters, will be sharing untold stories with co-host Sophie Kurtz. We're talking about scenes that almost never aired, predictions that came true, and conspiracy theories that fans have been debating for decades. The guest lineup includes Allison Janney, Weird Al, and Simpsons showrunner Mike Rice. This feels like a must-listen for anyone who has grown up with the show, and let's be honest, that's pretty much everyone. Here's a story that really captures how our industry is evolving. The UK Radio Academy, established way back in 1983, announced their rebranding as the Audio Academy starting January 2026. Why the change? Chair Helen Thomas explained that in their recent survey, less than 40% of respondents describe themselves as working solely in radio. The industry has expanded dramatically. We're talking podcasts, streaming services, audio brands, and so much more. This rebrand coincides with some impressive UK audio statistics. 86% of adults still listen to radio each week, but podcast consumption is surging, with 51% of Brits consuming podcasts monthly, according to Edison Research's latest study. One of the most inspiring stories today involves major podcasts from the UK and beyond teaming up for something called the Be Hope Podcast Takeover. This coincides with the UN General Assembly in New York, where world leaders are gathering to tackle poverty, inequality, and climate change. Participating shows include The Rest is Politics with Alastair Campbell and Rory Stewart, Pod Save the World, Electoral Dysfunction, and many others. They're bringing conversations about hope and progress to millions of listeners during this crucial week. Alastair Campbell summed it up perfectly: amid the darkness, we must always search for hope. Young people understand the scale of challenges we face, and they know we need fresh energy and ideas to fix them. Finally, let's talk business. Libsyn announced a multi-year exclusive advertising partnership with Tosh Show, comedian Daniel Tosh's popular podcast and YouTube series. With over 250,000 downloads per episode since launching in 2023, this partnership showcases how established comedians are successfully transitioning to podcast monetization. Stephen Pearlstein from Libsyn praised Tosh as embodying, quote, the kind of bold, authentic voice that Libsyn is built to support. Irreverent, hilarious, and still brand safe. That balance between edgy content and advertiser-friendly programming continues to be the sweet spot for podcast monetization. So there you have it. From free speech battles in traditional media to milestone celebrations and innovative partnerships in podcasting, the audio landscape continues evolving rapidly, with creators finding new ways to connect with audiences while navigating complex challenges around content distribution and monetization. The Jimmy Kimmel situation reminds us that content creator rights remain fragile, while the podcast industry stories show incredible growth and innovation. It's a fascinating time to be covering this space. Don't forget to subscribe to joinpodwires.com and be a paid subscriber to continue our work. If you want to submit an article for publication, please email our editor at editor@podwires.com. Keep creating, keep listening, and we'll see you next time with more updates from the ever-changing world of audio and entertainment media. I'm Miguel.
That's your wrap. Want the inside track on podcasting? JoinPodwires.com is your next stop. Subscribe to the newsletter for the latest trends and tap into the marketplace to connect with jobs, creators, and brands shaping audio's future. Don't just listen, get involved. Head to joinpodwires.com today.